Hey cousins, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Respectfully. I had to come live today. I know I'm usually not live on Monday, but over the weekend, everybody saw, if you have been on any corner of the internet, the tragic situation that happened over in North Carolina. So if you are unfamiliar, a 23-year-old Ukrainian refugee named, I believe it's Irina Zarutska, she was in Charlotte, North Carolina on the light rail when she was murdered on August 22nd, 2025. Now, the surveillance footage just got recently released, and it, of course, is making headlines everywhere because of just the absolute insanity of this situation. And there's a lot of gruesome things I've seen on the internet, but there's something about this one that feels particularly evil. And as we talk more about it, it's become a huge fight about what there's so many issues that we need to address within this situation. Is it race? Is it crime? Is it mental health? Is it all of the above? But what is the craziest part to me is the fact that this is at least a 14-time repeat offender that he has been arrested over and over and over again, and yet he is still on the streets and he was allowed to take this young woman's life. So we're getting into all of this. Please be sure to send in your live chats, your super chats. We are over on my personal YouTube channel if you want to send in those comments so that we can have a full discussion about this, because I know I can't be the only one baffled by this. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Welcome to Respectfully. So again, I rest in peace, first of all, to Irina Zarutska. It's so tragic. She's was a beautiful young woman, only 23 years old. She was here as a refugee from Ukraine. She literally fled the war in Ukraine to find safety in Charlotte, North Carolina. The fact that she was safer in a war zone compared to what she endured here in America, that says a lot about the state of our country. It states a lot about how bad things are getting here when it comes to crime, and nobody wants to have a serious conversation about it. That's crazy. Her family has described her as a gifted artist, passionate about sculpting and fashion and design, and she was an animal lover who cared for her neighbor's pets. And this is important to note when we talk about Irina, because this is a young, beautiful woman. This is somebody who had her entire life ahead of her. She had the courage to leave her country that was a war zone to come to somewhere that was relatively new to her. And for this to happen to her on American soil, it makes me feel like we live in a third world country. So if you haven't seen the video yet, we're going to play a clip for it. We're not going to show the most gruesome part, but we're going to show what leads up to it, essentially. Again, this was on August 22nd. This is around 10 p.m. on the Lynx Blue Line near Camden Road in Charlotte, North Carolina. Zarutska boarded the train, sat in front of suspect 34-year-old DeCarlos Brown Jr., and this is what happened. Seems like just a normal day. You kind of see he's tweaking a little bit. Pulls out a pocket knife. And it's like he just contemplates. And then he just abruptly, unprovoked, attacks this woman. And I was talking to this about I was talking about this situation with my good friend CJ Pearson last night, and we were both saying that this feels particularly unsettling because this is the definition of unprovoked. Like, for the fact that this guy was just sitting on the train, talking to himself a little bit. But, you see schizos and crazy crash outs and crackheads on the train all the time. Or when you're in public transportation, you see people who have something weird going on. But this girl did everything right. She looks like she's leaving work. Looks like she works at a pizzeria. But regardless, it's like she's dressed for minimal attention. She has a baseball cap on. She has her AirPods in. You can tell by her body language, she is the definition of minding her own business. And then this gruesome attack happens. And I cannot even imagine what the next few seconds of this must have looked like. I'm actually glad that hasn't been released to the public. I hope that it's not, because just the thought of the fear and the horror of what happened in that moment, and everybody that was around, from what I've read, it seems like no one really knew what was going on at first. It happened so quickly and abruptly that people weren't really sure what was going on until the blood is all over the train, just dripping. And DeCarlos ended up being arrested by the police. He walked off the train at the other end, just casually, removed his hoodie, and then was arrested by the Charlotte Mecklenburg police upon exiting. Now, again, This whole situation is wild. It's beyond tragic. It's horrifying to think as a citizen of the United States, you can just be minding your business on a train and the most gruesome style of death can happen to you. Dare I say that that's a worse way to die than being set on fire or drowning? Like, that just seems awful. And you know what? It's baffling because DeCarlos Brown Jr., he's 34 years old. He's homeless. He has a history of criminal activity and mental health issues. And he is now being charged with first-degree murder. And he was banned for life from the Charlotte transit system, whatever the formal name of that is. But the thing is he should not have even been in a situation where he had the ability to access society anymore. Because let's pull up the image that is going everywhere. This man has been arrested 14, at least 14 times this man has been arrested. You can see his various mugshots here. There's one photo in there. I feel like they grabbed the wrong photo, but I don't know. Even if it's 13, oh, what a big difference. A lot of people are trying to point out that it might actually be 13, but it looks to me pretty clearly, regardless, this guy has a track record that should have led him to be in prison for life. Okay, he's been arrested for things such as felony larceny, robbery with a dangerous weapon, assault, and misuse of the 911 system. So all these arrests, and the DAs and the judges still said, let's put this guy right back on the street. Let's just let him go right back out there. And, you know, I'm particularly passionate about this. I did a mini documentary or short documentary with PragerU called Their Lives Mattered. I did that about a year ago where we talked about the effects that happen when you allow these repeat criminals on the street, when you allow these people to get out of jail without cash bail like you have in certain states and cities. You also have in certain areas, you know, they have no 3 strikes rule where they can just commit an endless amount of crimes and still be allowed back on the street. And then this is what happens. And Their Lives Mattered, it particularly talks about the effects that it had on children and the fact that a lot of the people who end up getting murdered by these repeat offenders tend to be children. Okay, so check that out on PragerU.com. That is for free, again, on PragerU.com. Link in the description on YouTube, and check out Their Lives Mattered, because there's so much research and discussion there that talks about how insane letting these repeat offenders back on the street is. Now, when it comes to the mainstream media, of course, it has been heavily delayed, if not radio silent. A lot of the top media outlets do not want to say anything about this. And you know what? The argument is there. The argument is there that this is not a story that they want to pick up because it's not the narrative they want. You have a violent, crash out black dude that just murdered this beautiful white woman unprovoked. It's as black and white as it possibly can be that this was unprovoked and evil, but they don't want to talk about it. But when it is talked about, you know, it's just like what I said last week about the trans shooting, the recent one, because there's been so many. When we talk about these type of tragedies, it's like every single time the left is going to talk about mental illness, the right wants to talk about race, but both need to be a part of the discussion. But most of all, I want to discuss crime, policy, and law enforcement. Okay, so I had a tweet that went viral where I said just the basic analogy: a bartender is held accountable and can potentially go to prison if they're serving drinks to someone that is too drunk and they drive away and they murder someone. If you don't know that, that is a real law. Bartenders can go to prison for murder or for manslaughter or whatever the actual technicality of it ends up being if they overserve someone that is drunk and allows them to go and drive home. But for some reason, judges and district attorneys are not held accountable for letting a 14-time repeat offender murder a young woman. I'm a firm believer that with this judicial immunity that we have, we need to start looking back into that, because the only way we are going to be able to crack down on situations like this happening is if we actually start holding people accountable, holding the same people accountable that are allowing these criminals back on the street because they don't hold them accountable. Okay. And I still have to do more research into the most recent judge that allowed Brown back on the street, because I saw somewhere that she allegedly runs some type of organization that's all about second chances. So it's like, okay, it makes sense. You let repeat criminals back in the street because you financially benefit from it. We've seen that story before. And this clearly struck a nerve with a lot of people, this tweet that I put out there, because Elon Musk ended up chiming in, which I'm very grateful for, because this is something that I really want people to pay closer attention to. Elon Musk, again, thank you, Elon. He jumps in and says, let's change the law between now and then, name and shame the DAs and judges who enable murder, rape, and robbery, but especially shame those who funded the campaigns of the district attorneys and judges. That will make the biggest difference. Now, that was tea that he had. I'm glad he clocked. I'm glad he clocked that, because a lot of these people, the reason that they're able to get away with it and still be able to maintain their position and be elected or, just support it is because they have massive funding behind their campaigns. Their power isn't coming from from the people. Their power is coming from the money that makes it seem like they're doing a great job, because for some reason it is the big year of 2025 and people still have not figured out that the messaging campaigns you hear on the radio more often than not are lying to you. Okay, people don't do their research. They just go with the optics of what they hear. And it seems like there is a little bit of traction on people wanting to change this whole judicial immunity situation. I saw this tweet about Randy Fine. So this is breaking news. It says Representative Randy Fine will introduce legislation to hold judges accountable when violent repeat offenders they release commit new crimes following the murder of Irina Zarutzka in Charlotte. And that to me makes me, again, very happy to see. I'm happy to see that there is the potential of accountability happening here, because we need to crack down on crime. The biggest thing that is happening here is crime and repeat offenders being allowed to go and do what it is that they always do. Okay, if somebody goes and assaults and robs and does all kind of terrible things to people twice, why would they not do it a third time? Does that not make sense? Like, I don't understand how that's not common sense. But what I saw that I feel like really waters down the credibility of the argument was when a lot of people try to make it solely about race. I saw, and again, before I even go there, y'all know me. I am Uncle Tom's favorite nephew. I have on multiple occasions said I am pro mass incarceration. Oh yes. I'm not saying to target a certain race. I'm saying if a certain demographic in a typical profile wants to continue doing typical profile things, lock them all up. Lock up everybody it applies to. They're not going to, and then when I say that, they're like, well, they're going to come after you. You know why they're not going to come after me? Because I obey the law. It's very easy to be black and not go to prison. That being said, I am very pro cracking down, and I will be the first to admit that black people commit a disproportionate amount of crime. Why do you think that I like to live by white people and Asians? Clock it. Particularly Jews, though. The Jews, they mind their business. But that being said, I know that black people commit a disproportionate amount of crime. On a serious note, like, it's a real problem. And I am more than happy to point that out. But when we talk about it, we have to talk about it with a sense of solutions, not just be outwardly racist to every single black person you see spinning the block. So how I started, paying attention to that is I was scrolling on X, and everything that I was seeing from right-wing Twitter just had to do with black people and just dragging black people. And I already know X is full of bots. It's full of people intentionally trying to divide, and it's full of a lot of unserious people and opinions. But a lot of credible people ended up stepping into that discussion. The first, here's just a soft example, and I mean very, very soft example of the type of actually racist stuff I was seeing on X. So this person brings up Rosa Parks, the Rosa Parks statue of her seated. And it's crazy, because how are you going to make a statue of Rosa Parks and she still doesn't have a seat? That's crazy. Where's her chair? If y'all don't let my auntie sit, my girl was sat for life. So this person tweeted, she sat so he could stab. Wild. Low-key funny. Low-key a little funny. The dark humor in me, that's funny. But the fact that this person and the followers that are retweeting it are serious, that's what makes it not funny. Racism is on a little sprinkle of racism, just a wee bit of racism can be funny when it's made with the intention of making you laugh. This person was dead serious, I'm pretty sure. So I started seeing stuff like this. And again, this is a very soft example. I started having people calling me a gorilla. I'm like, this has nothing to do with me. I had people telling me that I need to go and do something about it. What do you want me to do? I'm sitting in Beverly Hills eating filet mignon. What am I supposed to do about some crash out in Charlotte, North Carolina? Okay. But then, so I ended up making a post where I said this. I said, can we pull up my first one? So I said, I hate that people are making this tragic stabbing only, clock the word, only about race rather than crime. Keep repeat offenders in prison, period. That's the solution. If a certain demographic ends up feeling mass incarcerated because they keep committing violent crimes, then so be it. I'm consistent, okay? Because God forbid I add a little nuance, okay? A lot of people don't like to see a little nuance, but I am consistent in how I feel about this. If it applies, you will go to prison. If it doesn't, you won't. But we need to crack down on crime. What they're doing in DC is amazing. I'm so happy they're doing it in Chicago next. Now, where this started to escalate is after I made this tweet and it got a little bit of motion, just a wee bit of motion. Shout out to Matt Walsh. Matt Walsh, huge friend of PragerU. We love Daily Wire. We respect the word of Matt Walsh. Matt Walsh tweets this, and I respectfully disagree. And before I even talk about this is not a me versus Matt thing, not a PragerU versus Daily Wire thing. This is discourse. Okay, we can all be, in the conservative movement and have disagreements and keep it respectful. Okay, so, and a lot of people were messaging me saying they didn't agree with me, and that's okay. That's why we're cousins here. This is why I don't call you guys followers. Followers means that you just follow everything I say and do. I love that y'all argue with me. You think Mr. Rodriguez and I don't argue? Chow, we will argue up and down about some of these hot takes. Ain't that right, Mr. Rodriguez?
That's 100% right. Happens all the time.
Happens all the time. Clock it. So that being said, I just want to preface with that before y'all get petty. But let me know what you think. So Matt Walsh tweets this. He goes, there are a lot of people, even on the right, who don't want to talk about the racial angle of these crimes. But here's the facts. If I told you that a person was randomly butchered on a train, and then I asked you to guess the race of the assailant, you would guess black and be correct nearly every time. Pause really quick. I hate to be petty, but I didn't guess black. Is it a safe space to say who I guessed? The same people who are wreaking havoc overseas in Europe. That's who I would have guessed. Okay. I would have guessed it was the same, pro-Hamas people. That would have been my first guess, but I digress. But, he says black. So we're just going to roll with the blickety blacks. So he says that you would guess black more often than not. That's just the simple reality. We all know it. There's a very obvious pattern here, well established over the course of many decades. The dividing line is not between those who recognize it and those who don't. We all recognize it. The line between those are who are willing to say it out loud and those who aren't. So that being said, here's my response. This is useless. This is useless rhetoric. Reducing murder to being about race when we should be addressing crime is a tactic of the left. If racists were reversed mentality simply means we play by the same rules we hate. This rant by Matt has no solution. Want to ban the blacks, Matt? How about we focus on fixing our judicial system, empowering law enforcement, and keep criminals behind bars? So the reason I responded is because it was pretty clear to me that his tweet was likely about mine, because I didn't see anybody else, posting that kind of take besides me. I could be wrong on that. But the gist of what I'm saying here is I wasn't necessarily saying Matt is completely wrong. And somebody pointed out it's like we're talking past each other as the conversation continues. And I do believe there's a sentiment of truth to that. We were very much talking past each other. I'm not denying that black people commit a disproportionate amount of crime. I am very, very well aware of that. But that being said, I do feel like everything he said in that tweet to me just has to do with race. It doesn't really have to do with how do we address crime. It just said, and the reason I made the joke, want to ban the blacks, Matt, is because from what I'm reading in his tweet, it's like, and based on what his audience was saying in response to it, so it was clear to me that they felt the same way reading it as I did, is it just makes it seem like we need to remove all black people from society. That's not a way to do it. We need to remove all criminals from society, mass incarcerate the criminals, and deport a lot of them. I'm at the point I'm ready to deport some Americans, but I digress. But that being said, that's why I went there. And the whole thing with if races were reversed, I understand why people say that, and I do entertain that sometimes when it's applicable. But when you always have the mindset of if roles or races were reversed, it no longer is a double standard. It just becomes the standard. Do y'all understand what I'm saying when I say that? If we play the same racial finger pointing game as the left, and then we're like, oh, well, we're doing it because the left does it, then again, it's not a double standard. That's just the standard. If we're doing the same thing and then they do it again, they can point at us and be like, oh, well, the right does the same thing, because we do. Because we do. It was the same thing with the whole situation that happened with Austin Metcalf, where I was fighting for my life on the internet because everybody was trying to, for some reason, twist my words and make it seem like I was against Austin Metcalf. I was so crystal clear about the fact that I was obviously against, I forgot what the black kid who killed him, what his name was, but I was against that degenerate. But that being said, it's like when you constantly frame things only from a racial standpoint, that to me is just sending us back to Jim Crow. It's like, what do you want to do about race? All the races are here. Black people were dragged here. So it's like, we're not going anywhere anytime soon. And the ones who constantly talk about how much they hate America, I do think they should leave. But I'm black and I love America. So what are you going to do to me? Like, what are we supposed to do with this information of constantly making it only about race? So then Matt replies to me. He goes, No, insisting that we ignore the plain reality that's right in front of our faces is a tactic of the left. That is the tactic of the left. In fact, you aren't even denying the truth in what I'm saying. You're just demanding that I stop talking about it. Sorry, that BS doesn't fly anymore. Honestly, I was surprised by this response because to me, this sounds just really emotional from Matt. And I feel like usually he's a bit more level-headed, but it just seems very direct, but not direct to anything that I said. I never said that I demand he stops talking about it, nor did I even, like he says, oh, you're not even denying what I'm saying is true, because I didn't deny it. That's correct. So why are you addressing the fact that I didn't deny it? I'm saying that your point, I feel like, reduces. And actually, let's just go to my next response. Matt, I have at least 1,000 posts about issues within the Black community, particularly pertaining to violence. So no, I never demanded you stop talking about it. I'm saying that making race the focal point rather than something with a real solution, such as addressing crime and repeat offenders, is pointless. Using the race card achieves nothing. If you want to find a solution, then let's address the policies that need to change. And this, to me, when I said it, it's like, I hope it clicked for him. I hope it's clocking to him that when I said using the race card achieves nothing, it's because that's usually something I would say to someone on the left. And the right is using the same tactic. The right is using the same tactic of making everything about race, whether it was George Floyd or Breonna Taylor or any situation that has happened from then to now. It's always, always, always about race. And we get so frustrated on the right because things that usually have nothing to do with race or potentially don't. Why are we making it only about race? What happened to this young girl, we don't know if that was a hate crime or not. To me, I mean, if it ends up turning out, if we ever find out a motive, it's like, okay, then deem it a hate crime. But this guy is he looks schizophrenic. He's sitting here like twitching and talking to himself and playing with a pocket knife and just went unhinged on this innocent white woman. That to me is a mental health issue. If he also happens to hate white people, then okay, then at that point we know it's a hate crime. But then you have people on the right who also say that hate crimes are irrelevant too because it's just crime. Okay, well, it's like, which one is it? We have to pick a struggle at some point. So again, making it about race when we should be making it about crime. Like, I don't think that I'm crazy for that. Y'all tell me if I'm crazy for that. And again, this is not an attack or shade at Matt Walsh. It's just talking about the fact that I feel like in general, we should be talking about crime. We should be talking about why are we allowing repeat offenders on the street? Because if we're being honest, there are white when we talk about the mass shootings, a lot of them are white and a lot of them are repeat offenders. They should be in prison too. So when I say that it shouldn't be just about race, yes, it's disproportionately probably, if we start cracking down on repeat offenders, it is disproportionately going to affect Black people. Boom. That is solving the problem closer to the root. But to make it only about race, it's like, what are you going to tell me next? Oh, we need more fathers in the home. Yeah, we do. And next question, okay? It's like everybody wants to just go off of can I just be honest? That talking point to me just feels stale at this point. Because a lot of the people that y'all talk about, we need fathers in the home, a lot of these crash outs have fathers in the home. First of all, being a father in the home doesn't mean that you're a good influence because you could be a crash out YN too, okay? If we're being so honest. So it's like to say, oh, we need so if you say that the solution to what happened to this white woman is we need more fathers in the home, then I'm sorry, but your argument is unserious. Is there probably some truth to it? Potentially, but it's unserious. That doesn't address the mental health nor repeat criminal portions of what's happening here. There are so many issues within the Black community that need to be addressed. Yes. And you know how we would address a lot of that? If we arrest the bad influences, if we arrest the gangbangers, if we keep them in prison rather than allowing them back on the streets. But then to make it seem like, oh, this is about rap music. For all we know, Irina could have been listening to rap music. So no, you can't keep making it about rap. You have white kids, you have suburban white kids that listen to Drake and Kendrick Lamar every single day, but they're not out murdering people. So you can't make it about rap music. You can't make it about father absence. You can't make it about school choice. You can't make it about Planned Parenthood. So why are you making it about race unless your next question is you want to just segregate all of society? If that's how you feel, anybody that this applies to, just say that. Be upfront about it. Just say that you want segregation, because then let's have discourse about it. There's a lot of people who are over on Twitter. It's a safe space to have that discourse. I obviously am not in favor of that. And if it does happen, I'm going with the whites. Because I know that there's too much crime happening with the YNs. But all that said, it's like the reason I give that list of things that people bring up when it comes to black culture is because none of that has to do with what just happened in Charlotte, North Carolina. What happened in Charlotte, North Carolina has everything to do with crime and the fact that we allowed a 14-time repeat criminal to go and get another dusty, musty, raggedy mugshot when we should be doing something much more severe with people like him, if we're going to be honest. Doing the ding after that is crazy, Mr. Rodriguez. And shout out to our friend Mary Morgan over at Timcast. She did say that she's not the only one that wants to see Matt Walsh and I have a full discussion on this. And I'm very open to that because y'all know, if y'all have been watching the show long enough, I have my fair share of agreements and disagreements with Matt Walsh. I would love to have this conversation more thoroughly with him. So this is my open invite. If he does want to have a live discussion about this or a chat, we can at any point. It's no shade. It's nothing personal. And really, he's just like one of the more prominent voices who is pushing this conversation solely towards race rather than addressing all the violent crime and repeat offenders. That's what my take is on that whole situation. And again, I would love to know what y'all think about it. One of the last things I want to talk about is a lot of people are probably wondering what was the aftermath. So again, as of now, at the time of making this video, we don't really know too much about what's happening with DeCarlos Brown. We know that he is arrested. He is being charged with first-degree murder, likely going to get that and be in prison for life. The typical responses from politicians, I don't even want to get into most of them because they're so cliche. If you read them on paper, you would immediately know who was on the left versus who was on the right. I saw one of the posts said something like one of the politicians or public officials was more upset that DeCarlos Brown didn't have a train ticket and said that this is about enforcing buying train tickets. Oh, because he forgot to swoop up a stack of quarters to get on this dirty, musty train. That makes it any better? Because people are concerned about hopping over the gate for the train? Are you serious? Are you serious? Are you kidding me? Can you be so for real right now? Oh, there's a horrible murder. A woman gets stabbed in the throat. He didn't buy a ticket, though. Crazy. Crazy and goofy. But my president is looking into it. So to cleanse your palate a little bit, here's Mr. President Donald Jaquan Trump, what he had to say when asked about the situation.
Multiple times on a Charlotte subway. Have you seen this video and do you have any reaction to it?
Yeah, and where was it? The subway was where?
She was in Charlotte on a light train. She was stabbed multiple times by a...
Horrible. No, I haven't heard.
Okay.
When did this happen?
It happened in August, but the video just came out.
I see. Yeah, I see the video. I'll know all about it by tomorrow morning. Okay? Thank you.
And I believe it. And I hope my president, by the time you guys watch this, has put out something or said something or is doing something behind the scenes to crack down on it. Because again, we need to keep these repeat offenders in prison. And that's all I have to say about that. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, you guys. I love hearing your discourse. And it's okay. Again, I love when you guys come in the comments and tell me when you disagree with me, because I can always learn something. Y'all can always learn something. We all can learn something. I love to see the discourse. Just keep it cute because, you know, I clap back. Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Click the link in the bio to go to PragerU and make a tax-deductible donation to keep the lights on in this... I'm gonna say something crazy. To keep the lights on in this establishment. And I appreciate you guys tuning in. But again, on a serious note, rest in peace to Irina Zarutska. I'm so sorry to you and to your family, and you deserved so much better. It's really tragic to see that you were safer in a Ukrainian war zone rather than you were here in the United States. And that's what needs to change. I will be back soon.